Did I die? Did I die? Did I die? I died. I died. I died. We're learning Leilu Nishmas. What's his name, Toby? Shlomo Meir ben Avram. Please open up to page 37. Page 37. You need a sefer? Page 37, the Bnei Machshava Tova. What a privilege we have to take time right now and bask in this light of the tzaddik, of the Kodesh Elyon Reb Chlonim Oskamen, Shapira Hashem Yikom Damo, the Eish Kodesh, the Rebbe of Piasetzna. You know how we've been speaking about Tmimus and Pshitus, we've been talking about this. Is it really possible for any of us to walk again with Tmimus and Pshitus in this world? And when we start to discuss and compare the way a child views and responds and acts and asks for what it asks for and doesn't ask what it doesn't ask for, so we say to ourselves, yeah, there's no point in trying to compare ourselves to children, because what else do they have to deal with? What else do they have to go through in this life? Meaning, at that state, at the state of a 3-year-old asking for chocolate or doing something, like the Rebbe said, lelo shum pniya, which we understood to mean without any kind of ulterior motive. A child says what it says, reacts in the way it reacts, without any cheshbon of anything else other than, I'm asking for this because what? Because I want it. Go to sleep. No. Why not? I just don't want to. Why are you testing me? I'm not. I just don't want to. Right? Tmimus and Pshitus. He's not saying Kedusha and Tahara. He didn't say you have to act with Kedusha and Tahara. That's a goal. But Tmimus and Pshitus it's a goal for it being on default. And we were speaking about this the last few times we met to learn the Torahs of the Tzaddik. There's something very, very beautiful we're going to be really pounding forth today regarding the charm of children. What he calls chino shel hayeled, the charm of a child. Now remember, the Rebbe was the Rebbe of the children. The children felt very, very close to him. They felt a natural meshichat, and they felt that he really sincerely cared about them. It's not like he needed the big gvirim, the money makers, those who were the sponsors, to sit right in front of him, right by him at the tish and give them covered. he was so big on making sure that he was giving children kavod and making them feel mamash that they have a space at the tish. So when he's speaking about the charm of the child, it's coming from a very close, it's not coming from a psychological place per se. It's not coming from a, psychologically analyzing why a child acts the way he acts. It's coming from a man, from a Rebbe, from a Jew, from a rabbi, from a tzaddik, who takes the concept of being close to children as an utmost privilege, as a mamish, a schut, as a privilege. So if you look, please, in page 37, the Rebbe is going to begin. It's page 37. I would say in the middle of that first chunk. It's a line. The first word on the line is ve'ein metziut. It's about 10 lines on the top. Ve'ein metziut. You see, there's one more sefer yos if you need. Excuse me. Do you see from here? It's right around over here. Ve'ein metziut. So towards the end of that line, there's the words kol chino. Do you see it inside, Chavra? Kol chino. Kol chino shel hayeledu, the chen of a child. When you say a child has chen, what are you referring to? You say a child has chen.
Sweetness.
He has sweetness. What does that mean? What's sweet about him?
Maybe his innocence.
Oh, very good. No, that now we're going somewhere. Okay, a child's sweet. Other than that Seinfeld about you got to see the baby. Then there's a baby it doesn't have that chen. You ever see that one? The charm, like every child has a charm. Then you go and you see a kid. Like, wait a second. Did that ever happen to you, by the way? Like you see a child, and it's just whatever. We're gonna.
My wife teaches young.
You've seen it, yeah. But when we say there's a charm of a child, kol chino shel hayeled, so its sweetness is, what about its sweetness?
Innocence.
Okay, do you know adults that are sweet?
Sure.
What is it about them that's sweet? Authenticity. More than innocence, because I don't know anyone that's right. But this is very good. What Shem is saying, authenticity. So the Rabbi is going to mechaven here in a second. Look what he says here. Kol chino shel hayeled. What makes a child full of chen? Al shehu tamim v'pashut. כשמדברים עמו מרגישים כאילו עם נפשו היינו מדברים. When we're talking to a child, we really feel like we're talking with the child's soul. וכששואלים אותו דבר, and when he's asked something, השאלה חודרת עד לנפשו. When a child is asked a question, the question is penetrated into the child's soul. וממנו, and from the soul, בא לנו תשובה תמימה ופשוטה. We receive back an answer that's very tamim and pashut. Like when you ask a child any question, it could be the most shallow thing in the world. But he's saying where it reaches a child, since there's no mechitzas and filters of, why is he asking me this? What is he really trying to say? The child's not in, it's not there. It's just being received fully in, right? So the child is hearing it, he's allowing the question to penetrate so deep inside, and from that place it comes back again without filtering, saying, okay, how does he want me to respond? In what way would he really feel comfortable with me responding? What is he going to hear from what I'm saying? What is he not going to hear from what I'm saying? Right out. By the way, we do have certain instances when there are adults in the form of holy people that do say things just straight out, and then people are sitting there trying to psychoanalyze, what does he really mean, as opposed to, with that. What they really, it just is what they're saying. It really is just exactly what they're saying. We just can't believe that people over the age of maybe 9 these days can be that authentic. Not 9, let's say, I don't know, a little bit later in life, right? We just can't believe that what they're saying is exactly what their soul is feeling. Et kol libo notenhu b'tshuvato. He gives his whole heart in his answer, the child. Now he says, now look what the Rabbi says here. Lo shetiyeh belo dat keyeled anu mevakshim mimcha. We are not asking you to be like a child who doesn't have the da'at that you might have, and therefore try to be tamim like that. So the Rebbe is saying, no, don't try to emulate that. That's impossible. Why? Because what doesn't the child have? No. What have we done with the da'at that we've acquainted, that we've accumulated? No, not only, we've done good things with it too, but there's a price that comes with intake.
Deeper understanding.
Hopefully. What else have we done?
Complicated things.
Right. So, but it's both. So he's saying over here, you can't pretend now that you could chuck all your dot away and act like a tmimus of a child. That won't work, and it's not the point either. Rak shetiyeh tamim. But you should be tamim. So, again, what does tamim mean? Because I looked into the translations, how the translators would take the word tamim in this context, and the word that came up was wholehearted. Wholehearted.
One thing is people with Down syndrome, they get to live their whole lives in this state.
You have a very personal example of that right in front of you all the time. It's your step brother-in-law, right?
My brother-in-law.
Brother-in-law, right? Sorry, brother-in-law. But that's what he's saying over here. Tamim, be wholehearted. Let's discuss this, huh?
Authentic.
That's why I was saying, what Shimon was saying is very good over here. I think authenticity doesn't, it means whole, like the tamim milishon shalem, but the inyan is, the heart's got to be in there too. Wholehearted. So what does that mean to be wholehearted? How do you engage in business wholeheartedly?
It's the same question.
But many of you are businessmen, so obviously it's something we want to aspire to get to. What's that?
If you're willing to be vulnerable.
You have to admit
Right.
you're wrong and take responsibility.
But is there a problem within, the Rabbi David Fink, my posek, the one that taught us for Smicha, so he led a whole, he has amazing shirim, tremendous shirim all over the place, but one of the seminars he was leading, one of the Kvutzat Shiurim, a group of classes he was giving, was about the halachic ethics in business, and the manner in which he did it was incredible. Because there's a question to modern man today. Is it possible to be tamim in business? In today's world of business?
Of course. Yeah.
Of course. Yeah, don't be scared to say yes. Now, why does that seem so impossible to most of the world? Why is the default not there?
Most people say you're getting a deal. That how are you making money? It's because you're taking advantage of somebody else. Or the only way you can improve your business is by, finding a way to trick somebody out of something.
Outsmart your clients.
People are very focused on short-term.
Right. I think that's a big one.
And those
That's
are
a
the ones
big
that
one.
get the headlines also. The guys who figure
Absolutely.
out to make a short
And they
term.
justify that by saying, look, if I do, short, like this will help me long term if I just focus on the short term, because that'll, engage more traffic, right? But remember what he said in the beginning of this parak? Armumi, remember that word? Conniving? All it takes is one moment of that, one moment, one pniya, one movement towards that direction, and then you want to run back to like the world of tmimus and pshitas. Whoa, boy, it's so difficult to do this. So the Rebbe is saying, he's saying like this: we're not expecting of you to act like a child, but an aspect of the child, yes. And what aspect is that? The wholeheartedness, the tmimut, not tmimut of like innocence, but tam milashon shalem. Full, complete.
Children's word is much better, and you can apply that to children too. That innocence is authenticity.
Absolutely. But they're not even trying, right? They're not even trying to be authentic. They're just being them. Right? Today, to be...
They live in the moment. So, like, we engage in business, and I think, first of all, we make the mistake of thinking that the goal is to make a buck. But if you gave the child the same task, all the child would be focused on is what's at hand right there, then and now. And so they're going to approach it from the heart and take the task for really the reality of what it is, which is, bringing Hashem into the world and doing it in a tamim way. But we're worried about the result of making a buck. And so that's our focus. A child would never be worried about that. A child wouldn't have that concern, so it's easy for them. In order for us to be like a child, we would have to completely remove, our attachment to the outcome, our attachment to the misaligned goal of we are engaging in the world to make a buck.
It's not just in the world of business of a dollar, it's the spiritual business as well. It's the business of shuls, the business of yeshivas. It's not just in Wall Street. It's almost in every mamash. This test is in every area of our lives.
I think what he's saying is really good. The means to an end. Childs don't have means to ends. The means to the end is when the Amumi comes. They're just in the moment doing with that because it's that.
Right. But I'm dafka thinking spiritually because then it gets much more confusing to differentiate. But means to an end. In the world of business, so once I call things out, I just call them out. I can't keep on justifying the fact that I'm shorthanding. I can't keep on justifying it once I have a certain level of da'at that there's no tmimus in this business, right? But when it comes to spirituality, it's very, very tricky to know where you're operating from a place of tmimut and when there's some kind of a conniving going on and you can't even detect where it started.
Can you give us an example of what you're talking about?
I'd rather not because it's too personal and I have to figure out a way to be very, very honest. But it's food for thought. You'll think about it. You'll think about it. Or if I think of a better example, it's just something. Yeah.
I was just going to say, something came up here. We were thinking about the long term versus the short term. The child is removed. It's so beautiful because he really just cares about right now. I want a piece of chocolate. I don't want to go to bed. Whereas we are already engaged in the process of planning. Like whether it's I want to be a Talmid Chacham one day, and therefore I need to go through all this, and I need to take the slow processes, or whether it's I want to have all the things, and so my family has comfort, and I want to be wealthy, so I can take these great vacations, and whatever it is, and then you're already engaged in planning. When you start planning, you're using your da'at, and you're trying to find the shortest way to get there, and automatically we go to if I were to be a little fake. Would I be able to skip a stage?
Right.
Would I get there a little faster?
When I get to the end faster.
Yeah, or then I'll ask myself a question. I'll say, this Talmid Chacham thing is really, really fun for me. I really want to become a Talmid Chacham. And I notice that when I bring in Torah to other people are like, they're into it and they think I'm a Talmid. This is good. It's good for me. You know what? Maybe it's not just about being a Talmid Chacham. Maybe it's about also the kavod. This could be really good for me. And so I think that.
You see how fast he jumped right over here? But that happens to us without even thinking about it. Meaning that's our default mode sometimes. And we're not even realizing that that's how we're thinking. Yeah. And that's how we're operating. Happens quite often.
We have this da'at and we're trying to utilize it in its best usage. And then suddenly we don't care if it's wholehearted anymore because this is good for me.
Wholehearted is not the goal anymore.
The Kodesh in other places talks about employing the ego. Like, it's foolish for us to think that we can disconnect the ego from our life. Like, we can't do that. And so, instead of having this fight against the ego, instead of, being okay, to your point, I want to be a Talmid Chacham, and, there's a bit of ego involved in that, in your analogy, with the way... But if we're trying to, no, ego, it will rear its ugly head.
I think that stage is later on in the beginning, in the onset here, there's no room for it because we're talking about the onset, the starting mode. He's saying things might happen later on where you have to do what you just said. But as you begin something, over there it has to be tmimus and pshitus for it to have any way of standing in this world.
How do you make your ego in that world of simplicity? How do you allow your ego to go into that world instead of keeping those things?
I think that it's due to the initial stage, emet muchlat, absolute emet. There's no room for trying to trick ourselves at all.
It's part of Machshava. You check in with your thoughts. Don't allow them to define you. Right? That by itself is a method of keeping it all in check.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as you're aware that you're thinking maybe more of yourself because of an experience or thought that you have the opportunity to pull away from it.
I think it's
one option.
Hashkata, because even with Hashkata, I do it very quickly. I'll start my today in davening. I was like, wow, it's cool. I slowed it down, and then next thing I know, I'm like, it's been 20 minutes. I haven't thought about a word I've said. Very quickly, I lose control of it. But I think it's what the Rabbi is saying here is that God works through emes. And the clothing of Emet, or the vehicle of Emet, is tmimut. So if you, for any second, you divert yourself from the path of tzniut, don't treat yourself. You know that. Even if you think that, okay, no, this was justified in this case because I'm a new business, I can't tell them I'm new.
Right.
Or I was on a sales call yesterday. I use an example for Jeremy, right? I'm not embarrassed about it. I was asked, well, how do you know the person I'm trying to get in touch with? I'm like, oh, she's like, is this a continued conversation? I'm like, continued conversation? I mean, yeah, is she expecting your call? Yeah, I mean, she could be. I've never spoken to this person in my whole life. But I can't be like, hey, I'm a new business. I've never sold this thing before, and I really want you guys to be my first client. It sounds like I'm not gonna be that tamim like a child. Yet somehow I have to find the balance between tamimut and shekel, and I went total shekel there. I went total shekel because I knew that was how I skip a step.
Right.
I hope you go to the airport and they say, did anyone give you anything? Did you pack the bag yourself? You got 5 bags. You're carrying a ton of stuff. Now you don't want problems because at the end of the day, come on, you just want to know if I'm carrying a bomb, this thing like that. I get it, you get it, we're cool. Now I ask you a question. Did anyone give you anything to carry?
And why do you say no?
You say no.
Why?
You want to open up everyone of your bag.
Right, because you just want to get to right. But where does it go? You know that they know that people gave you a million things.
That's legit. Remember we're talking about that's legit. That's okay. That's coming.
And the world of this is the tricky question because Israel's built on these mishigatzes. This whole country was built through like totally justified. You know I'm lying, and I know you're lying. Yalla, we'll have a beer one day, but let's just get through this now, and let's build a city like this. Like this happens here all the time. So is that tmimus and pshitas? No. Call it what it is.
And so there are guys that show up there as a tmimus. Yes.
You know what?
My gave me the box.
You know what?
I mean, everybody in line behind is like, oh.
Right, everyone. You know what? I'm flying Thursday morning. I'm gonna actually.
Yeah, don't.
Pack your bags yourself.
Right? Huh?
You don't have to commit to it.
No. I'm thinking now. No. So what am I saying now? I'm saying now. I'm not gonna take anything. And I'm going to pack my bag so that I can answer her and say, no one gave me a thing, and I packed my own bags.
I went through security once, and they asked me what holidays I celebrated. First they said Hanukkah, and they're like, what else? I said, the Super Bowl. Thanksgiving.
They don't like that.
They did not like that.
No, that messes with them.
But I was being honest.
Oh, it wasn't to mess with them.
Well, a little bit was to mess with them. But after I realized I was being honest.
Oh man, this happens all the time. Look now, okay, no, those are people that are not really close to us.
No,
what about us with our children? How often do we justify the slanting of tmimus and pshitas because fill in the blank? Each of us has
You
a.
don't tell them you didn't pack your bags. Same thing.
But maybe there's
then
also, but there's also a thing about, I mean, like, what if my child does something that hurts me? Right?
Yeah. And that never happens, but yeah.
Right. And especially when they're little, and you understand that they didn't intend to hurt you because you do have this dot that you understand your child didn't intend to hurt you.
Right.
And they're just operating in this simplicity, and they did something, or said something that hurt you. So if I sit down with my child, they can either pass through that moment as if nothing happened.
Right.
Right? And I can deal with my own stuff. Or I can sit down with them and talk to them about the depth of how they hurt their father.
Right.
And that's not necessarily healthy for them either. And so I think that there is a context. There has to be a context. There has to be some level of dot that protects us from hurting our own children because we're being so simple and authentic and honest.
But call it what it is.
Right.
Don't say that's tmimus.
No, it's complex and it's a lot of things.
Don't say, but that's important. I'm a kabbalah.
He's doing it to protect his child and not.
Because it's something else that's good, but it's not tmimus.
But I don't understand.
Why?
No,
It's being
not
tamim in terms of like him his child, like it's all one package.
Sorry, forget tmimus. It's not pshitas. Forget tmimus in that case. It's not
Okay,
pshitas.
life is in Pasha also.
We're not trying to make it.
We're not being trying
Nachon.
to that's the kid.
But being authentic means calling things for what they're at, right? Let's
But then
it's okay. Yeah.
The comparison's interesting because for a child to be tamim, it is very simple because there isn't a lot of thought. For us to be tamim, you have to put in all of that thought. And it's almost the opposite of the child, where you really have to think about it. You have to go through all the steps in line. What you said just about going to the airport on Thursday. You have to think about, okay, they're going to ask me these questions, so I need to be prepared for these. It's all that thought and all that effort that you're putting in just to take something that the child
has naturally.
I also think that this is talking about yourself. Yaakov Avinu was doing kol minei things like this.
Right.
And he was always tumming with himself. He knew that he was doing that for his kid. He wasn't convincing himself that he was doing something that was like armumi. As long as you're tumming with yourself be'emet, you actually may be able to go like this, but lishaer tamim. I think it's just about how you're doing it to you. Are you being emet with yourself? Are you being tamim with yourself?
Do you know that that's the trickiest, that's the most the easiest thing to corrupt? What you just, that's the easiest world of corruption.
I think it's the Avinu, but that's the Gesher Tzar that we have to walk.
I'm being true to myself.
It's true.
That whole thing, the whole world of being true to myself. Like it's a very.
Is that not that is the avoda? No?
It's the sheker of this generation.
The tagline of truth.
The sheker of the generation.
It's the sheker of this generation, hiding behind that statement, and thinking that's being real.
Is it not possible?
Of course, it's possible. What the Torah tells us how to do it. Most people say true to myself. They don't think about, the Rambam helping me get to the truth of myself, the Ramchal. They're saying, no, I know inside of me. But a Yid says, no, we have a Torah, we have a Shulchan Aruch, we have Hilchos Lashon Hara. We have a world that helps us get there.
Example. Yeah. Like, I'm going to treat my child this way, even though my pshitut is like, you hurt my feelings. But you're a 7-year-old. I'm going to tell you that you hurt my feelings. What kind of fun? So it's like saying, letovato, I'm going to do it like this, and ani chanechoto kacha. But I know, where I'm doing it, then it's mimut for his benefit.
I hear that.
But I think part of that also is that we have to have this, right? We have to have friend. We have to have somebody to go to that said, my 7-year-old tore my heart out of me this morning, right? Because if we continue, I think that if we continue just to build that up, and we're eventually our inner voice becomes really clouded, and it becomes really messed up.
I think that's one of the main points of the Sefer.
Right, I'm protecting my kid, I'm protecting my wife, I'm protecting my employees, I'm protecting my parents, and all of a sudden you have all this sheker inside yourself because you're protecting everybody, and you've neglected to protect yourself, and then you've created this kippah around your true self, your neshama, your true self, that loves everybody else so much. You're protecting everybody else, and in the inside, you're falling apart.
Right.
And that's I think that's the danger of walking all these bridges, right?
But I mean, the Bnei Machshava is a chavura.
That's the point. I think that's the point of what the Rabbi says. It says if you're going to walk with these Torahs, then there's no way that you could truly gain authenticity and tmimus and pshitus alone.
When this
can't do it.
To bring all this together, when your child is on that line with you at the airport, and they know that you're bringing something for somebody else, and they hear you say that you packed it all and it's all yours.
Yeah.
There's obviously much deeper examples than the airport story,
right.
But that's when this whole world comes crashing.
Yeah.
When the child figures out that you tricked them into, because you used some, trick to kind of get around doing something as for Sina, you did it, but then they figure out that you...
I'll share with you guys something amazing. You just brought me back to, I was 16 years old, and I was in LA, and my father walked into the room, and he started crying. And I said, what happened? And he said, it was something with an insurance deal over the car. I don't remember exactly what it was, but all he was trying to do was to protect me because I had just gone through a car accident. But it was a shortcut or for something, and he thought that I understood that and that's why we were in a penalty now or something. And he started crying over thinking that he just corrupted my world, which I actually thought that he was doing an amazing thing by what I forget exactly the details. Does that make any sense what I just said?
Yeah.
It was such a high moment of revelation of my father's heart, but also of his tmimus, yeah.
Is it being inauthentic if you have to deliver? I think about people who've worked for me who have made mistakes to the point where I have to let them go.
Yeah.
Is there any benefit for me or for them to be brutally honest about how awful I think they are as an employee? Or can I let them down easy by coming up with a softer way of explaining to them why this relationship is
It's the same as the airport. You have to start way before the moment you let them go. Right. If your relationship was never as such, and then all of a sudden, like, you're firing them, and in addition to firing them, you're giving them a good kick to the ego, that doesn't work. But if the whole nature of your relationship with them is compassionate and close and loving, and you get to the point where it doesn't work, and you can explain to them from that place why it didn't work and why it won't work and what you're mentoring them to do in the future so that they don't go to this place again, that's a whole different thing. But you can't start. Like,
I'm not talking about starting there. I'm talking about, like, you're still, you can really destroy a person.
I have a good example. It happened to me in a band. My first band here in Israel, the guitarist was my best friend, and it just wasn't it. But we loved each other, and what was killing me was that I felt, and it was always real, I was never like, wow, you're the most incredible musician I know, throughout the whole time. I'd always be like, wow, hey, listen, we have to, shift gears, whatever it is, right? Then I knew, like, en ma lasot, times we can't continue like this. So I davened my heart out before I begged Hashem, please, please let this go smooth, and please don't let him forget how much I love him. And just because this isn't working out, that shouldn't have anything to do, right? He's lived in the Tel Aviv area. I was living in Yerushalayim back then. And I davened so hard, and he heard, Mama, I'm telling you, he heard it in my voice. I don't think it was before you moved into the house. We used to play in there all the time. And my God, he got off the phone. He was on the phone. I told him, and he said, I hear right now that through your voice that I want to come over and hug you right now. He drove 45 minutes, and we sat down that night. We've only gotten closer till today. More and more and more. But I think that you're right. Your mom is right on. If it's a whole relationship of authenticity and compassion, then there's no need to drop a bomb at the end to tell them, there are no bombs that you need to drop, because it's just a natural flow of sharing your heart, even though it might be some heavy things. But when it's not like that, then I think that's not authentic. I think. If it's just at the end, for the sake of, whatever it is, of being emes. Like Reb Shlomo, this is just a very interesting piece we learned yesterday in Simchat Shlomo. Reb Shlomo said there are people in the world that are obsessed with their concept of delivering emes, that they destroy the whole world. In the name of what? Of emes. Or their concept of compassion. Right. Their concept of compassion.
So I'm talking about the only reason, in my opinion, that anyone would think about letting somebody down softly is because their whole relationship is, of course, built on love and compassion. Otherwise, you wouldn't care. You would just smack them down and say, you're a terrible carpenter. You're never going to work for me again. Right. Or you're not working for me now.
Right.
There's what's the benefit?
Right.
You or for them.
Ma to'elet. Well, exactly.
You're just going to hurt them.
What's the benefit?
And then when they try to go get another job, they're going to...
Their self-esteem is
destroyed,
right?
Destroyed. So
but in the name of MS, I told them what I think is right? So who wins? Who wins? Who get, like you said, who gets anything from this?
Well, who says that? I mean, I want to do a deal with what the Rabbi is saying here. I don't think the Rabbi is saying share everything that's in your heart. He's saying when you share from your heart.
Wholehearted.
And go back to the example that Shlomo brought of his son. You don't have to be like, you hurt me, that is disgusting, I would never expected that from you. You can share parts of it. You withhold it, but you don't necessarily come all the way around here to teach him, hey, you hurt me by I don't know, some other crafty, conniving way. I don't think there's a huge. I don't think we're going to know exactly when we're supposed to fully share and when we're not supposed to fully share. But for sure, when you do share from your heart.
Yeah. Yes.
It's like no small talk.
We've used this. I've shared this example with you before, but I think it requires reading. This is something live where I was around from people, you know, they happen to have lived in the New York area, white shirt, black pants, you know, and they were discussing how they cheat on their taxes. Okay, and so someone says, well, but how do you know, but you have to sign at the end. It's very tamistic, actually, what he said. You have to sign at the end. I attest that everything that I'm saying is true and fair. So he says, no, I signed a blank piece of paper, and then I put it in the printer, and it prints out the tax form. No, it's outrageous what I'm saying, but I'm telling you it's evidence. I mean, meaning. I guess my question to you is, again, it's something that sounds so outrageous, but can you respect?
It's not so outrageous.
Can you respect his Tamima stick for actually going through the hoops of that? Come on, buddy, who you fooling? Just sign the paper. We all get it. We all cheat a little bit. Just sign the paper. But no, he's sensitive enough to sign. I'm not going to sign something I don't agree to. You know, but he did it in a.
I think it's even more.
You think that's a powerful thing?
Is there any? This is more. I'm putting on my.
Good stuff.
I'm asking you, is this guy, and he's a frum guy, you know, these are frum people, he's taking the effort to go ahead, see, you say least frum.
He's wearing black and white, that's what makes him frum?
I'm saying he's sensitive.
He took halacha. Yeah, he's so sensitive to the Sfarim that he did exactly the opposite of what the Sfarim are saying we should do.
But he's one step closer than the guy who just signed it.
No. He's one step further. He's worse.
He's worse. He knows.
He's much worse. Because he knows that he's doing it in a way that he can then justify that he's not being over halacha.
He's the embodiment of the article you posted, Shlomo.
Which one?
The one about this, written by this high school senior, who's basically saying these guys are walking around and they think that they're checking the box. I checked the box off, that I signed it first and then did this. So halachically, I'm good because I didn't attest to making so. I'm good, and now I'm going to go on with my white shirt, my black pants, and act like everything's fine. It's worse.
Let's see.
He's not real. The guy's not real.
But I want to address your concept. I want to address what you brought up, because ben adam lachavero, we could do that as well, or with our spouses. And when it has to be ben adam lachavero, then it's much harder to say, oh, he's doing one step more real. For instance, what? If a person came to the conclusion that's cheating on their taxes. Now let's talk about those bad things of cheating on your spouse, right? And then you plug in all these different scenarios that you're saying, you know, at least it's with a Jewish woman, or whatever that at least is, right? You know what I mean? Whatever that at least is, doesn't matter what it is. It could be anything, right? What does that say? The at least is just showing that there's what? That there's room to justify conniving.
Yeah, but that's why emes has to be, which is what Hashem
has
to be me'achuz. When you allow right? That little bit in, that at least in
the crooked foundation.
Yeah. The crooked foundation.
I were at Burger's Bar one time, and Tehillah calls me, and she's like, "Hey, Jerry, where are you? What are you eating?" And I open up my hamburger, and I'm like, lettuce, cucumbers, tomatoes. And I'm looking at the thing that's inside the hamburger. But kid, love you, bye.
Those were the vegan days?
That was way before the vegan days. I'm just like,
let's see. Listen, because what have we heard? We've heard the Torah. One time we learned the Torah that it says meshanin mipnei hashalom. That when it comes to shalom bayis, you could bend it a little bit, right? Does anyone know exactly to what extent Chazal were referring to when they say that? Huh?
Do I look fat?
But I think that's it. That's it. No, that's the only question we have, right? I don't think it goes to anything else. Is there any other question? It's really, just those.
Or derivatives of.
Or derivatives of. Yeah, correct. Look, that's why, going back to what you're saying, Jimmy, is that this Indian of being real with yourself, to be with yourself, it's a beautiful, beautiful statement and a beautiful world. And that's the 90 years of toiling in this world aspect, You get glimpses of it on the way. But it's better to make sure that you're sticking to wholeheartedness and emes to the extent that you mamash are able to, as opposed to thinking that as long as I'm true to myself, because we all know this, Mesilas Yesharim say everyone, they eat our Yetzer Hara, all the time.
Just right before Ari went to the army, we had to make a big decision financially at the farm, what to do. I mamish for 2 hours was doing hashkata, trying to figure out, and all I found inside me was agenda, more spin, more reasons, more this, more that. I was like, there's no timim and no pshita here at all. I don't have the kalim to be tamim. I don't have it. So I said, Ari, what are we supposed to do here? And Ari is like, tamim b'dorotav. He's like, this is what we should do.
Right.
And he was able to get to it. The whole scenario, I didn't even think what he thought of. But then once I was able to hear what he said, I was like, emet.
That's emet. Yeah.
But that's why you need a chavrusa. If you don't have a chabura or something to bounce off of,
maybe that's what it means. O chavruta, o mituta, meaning you'll end up in a reality of death.
You're just in your own world.
If there's no
spin on top of agenda on top of agenda. If you don't have a sounding board to hear something outside, impossible to stay honest.
Let's see how the Rebbe continues this. Let's see how he continues. This is very good stuff. Ulemashal. You see the word ulemashal? The PSS says it's about 7 lines in the bottom of the paragraph. I love my guesses. They're never right, but whatever. Ulemashal. Oh yeah. Oh cool. Ulemashal. Talk about authentic. Ulemashal kasher yishalcha adam davar lo tachshov eich lehashivo. Wow. When someone asks you a question, don't start thinking, how should I answer them? As opposed to what? Lefini musa olam yafeh lehashivo kach. Really, when in Rome, meaning like there's always a when in Rome process going on in your mind when someone asks you a question, and then you're left with nobody responding. If I answer him like this, he actually might think that I'm smart. But to cheat this guy, it's probably better if I answer him like this. נמצאת שתשובתך היא אוסף של רוח מארבע רוחות העולם אשר נחוצה לך לפי נימוס העולם כך תחשיב וכדי שיחשבך לחכם. Saying something very interesting here. He's saying we end up realizing that most of the answers we give to people have very little to do from a place of tmimus, but we're okay, and we've come to be okay with that. We've come to be okay with living like that. That we're okay with just answering, this person needs to hear like this person needs to hear like this, because he doesn't need to hear like that, but he'll think that I'm like this, and I can get something like this from this. But, what's that?
This is one of the reasons I quit my job.
Really?
Yeah. Couldn't do it.
You couldn't do what?
It was all that game. Doing the thing, saying the thing to the guy, the thing, and making him think that it was his idea to do the thing, come around, and this and that and the thing, and you have to say this to that person, so that they'll think the thing.
Because what happens to you? Other than feeling bad, what happens to you?
Yeah, it's like, how am I doing? This is insane. You like, I don't know. I can't explain what it does.
That's why you're here, though. Let's explain what it does to you. Let us understand. What does it do to you?
Definitely.
What's that? What'd you say, Father?
He's giving me Torah.
What did Father just say right now? Father can explain, son. Somebody.
B'shem Rabbeinu Tam.
What? Yeah.
That you become a pirate.
What does that mean? Okay, Rashi. Anybody?
That makes perfect sense.
And you know what happens to the pirates?
What happens to the pirates?
They walk the plank.
You have a pirate mentality. I mean, basically reprograms your soul.
It reprograms your soul. Wow.
Reprograms your soul.
Oh my God. Whoa, I gotta. You reprograms your soul.
That's the kind of person that basically you can be molded and shaped into. And ultimately you will walk the plank.
That was the sensation. Okay.
I think so. So it definitely got me to be like, well, maybe I need to be this way, because I'm seeing other people succeed at doing this thing and talking to him, and like maybe part of my avoda in this world, maybe the test is to get rid of myself and to just be the thing that I need to do. and it's like...
You start convincing yourself it's your tikkun. Yeah. That's the craziness.
And then something is just like...
Rocky, yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Did you feel that it made you start acting that way in other,
Yes.
in other places?
Yeah, 100%. And then after the thing,
Yeah.
then when you fly to wherever it is, London or whatever you're doing, you're with the other people and it's the thing, then you're taking that process and applying it because, you're seeing it work on some level.
Right.
For a massive amount of people. And then it's, but you just can't. There comes a point where it's like, I can't do this. I cannot do this. I'm not capable of doing this.
What part do you see of the other people? You see the
result
of what they have, which is usually money.
Yeah.
And you have no idea what's going on inside them.
Yeah.
All you know is they're succeeding.
And their souls are probably what did you say? Reprogrammed? Their souls are probably all reprogrammed.
They're pirates.
When I hire employees, I always tell them that our relationship is built on trust, and they can fool me once. And I tell them that straight up. You have the ability to trick me one time. I'm going to realize eventually that you tricked me, and then we don't have a relationship built on trust anymore. That's the short-term, long-term. You can play that game until they pick up on you playing the game, and then the game's over.
Wow. Tom, you must have read ahead because look at the bottom two lines.
I didn't even say
Piratim. Radio pirati. That's what they call it, right? Ve'ata im nafshecha chaserim. But you and your soul are missing from the picture. En kan lo metziut. There's no reality here. Velo chiyut. There's no life here. Lo nefesh, no soul, velo emet, and not truth. Sheker, efes uvohu he.
I've never talk like that.
This is just. He's calling it. He's just calling it for what it is. There's not. He's not sweet talking at all over here. Like nothing. He never does. But here, Mamat, like just full on explaining that he's saying. But there's one word out of all the words he chose to use at the end that I want to see if anyone else is stuck out to them. The last two lines, there's one word that he used that I think will help us a lot with approaching this avoda. What word? For me, what the word was? Metziut. You said that?
No, we both
To? Oh, the word is metziut. This is not reality. This is not reality. It's not real. Reality. I was just thinking that, mamash with the Alter Rebbe. This is not reality. What do you mean? What do you mean? Look what you created. I created it. It's real. That's not when you reprogram your soul, or you're not with your soul. What you're experiencing is not real. That's not reality. You'll see. It's gonna mess you up now, right? Is it an illusion of reality? Or is it a delusion? What's the difference between an illusion and a delusion?
Delusion you do to yourself.
Mm-hmm. So this might be more a delusion. A delusional, right? You've deluded
yourself.
Your existence, your experience.
Your experience in the illusion.
Yeah.
If you live in the world of Sheker long enough, eventually it's just you become Sheker. That's the Torah on Yaakov. He wakes up in the morning, sees the face of Lavan, says, I see his face wasn't the same as yesterday.
Right.
So there's everything that Shlomo says that he looked at Lavan and says, you know what? I get Lavan now. Fine, I'm dreaming of sheep. Look at this guy. Oh my God. He's like, I gotta get out of here.
Right now.
And then
he checks out right away. After all those years.
I was talking to my kids yesterday about what is truth and what is like real, and I was asking about like what human nature is like. So I was talking to them about how a plant grows, and I was talking to them about what in people, what do you think is common to all people? Like what is like the nature of people in general? And one of my sons, he said that people want to get married. Like that's like, and everybody wants to get married. Like in his world, everybody wants to get married. Everybody wants to have partnership in life. I said, okay, that's good. And we talked about it. I said, what about somebody who's like 45, 50 years old and they were never married and now they just say, no, I don't want to be married. I'm fine. Everything's good. He said, that's not the truth. They just decided that they'll never get married. So they just decided that they're happy not being married. Mm-hmm. But the truth is that inside they wanted to be married. And so I think that some of this is also that we convince ourselves, like that our true nature is truth, because our true nature is definitely connected to Kadosh Baruch Hu. And that is truth, and that's all the things, the opposite of the things that he said.
Right.
That's what's real. But then eventually we start feeling all these things, and we start saying, we convince ourselves that what's real is these other aspects of ourselves. I'm just an angry person.
Like what Yakir said. He said, and eventually, like, you realized, you began to convince yourself that this might,
but
this
that's why he says
might be my tikkun, right? That's insane, right? But that's right. But that's what we do. Yeah, yeah, sure.
I'm just gonna hearing what the two of you guys are saying. I'm trying to put it together. Why did the man who's 45 years old suddenly say, "Oh, I never wanted to get married anyways," or why Yakir in this example? I'm using you as an example, but it happens to I think every person in this room. And why did we start playing this game? And I don't think it's because we have dot. I think it's because we have dot, we have tumut, and a couple times in a row it gets slapped. We got slapped in the face. Like we were tamim, and we got slapped in the face, and it hurt. We got really, really hard and rejected. This guy is 45 years old, so he's been trying to get married for a long time. He's been sharing his soul with everybody. Hey, do you have somebody for me? Maybe something else.
He's done with the pain.
Yeah.
He's done with the pain.
And I think that's a big part of it, is that we're human beings, and we have feelings, and we have emotions, and eventually when those feelings have been beat down enough, you're just like, nope, I'm not even going to go there anymore.
Yeah.
It's
well, hopefully friends...
I don't want my coworkers to think that I'm an idiot anymore because I'm so tamim, that I think that this is going to work, or that this is how you should approach the person with honesty. So I'm going to play the game with everybody else so they don't, reject me.
It's short-term, long-term.
It's short-term.
Short-term.
It's right.
It feels good.
Right.
You have to work so hard to keep up that appearance of this.
Not amongst the safe circle of Bnei Machshava, of Chaburas Bnei Machshava Tova.
Then it becomes a huge burden.
It becomes so much more of a burden to try to balance that which we do to ourselves. When you realize, look, we're all in this together. It's really the point. Like there's certain sfarim you could maybe get through alone, right? And there's certain sfarim that it's not a sefer. We're not learning. I don't feel like we're learning a sefer. Like even if we have sfarim here and it's literally like just a manual to the authenticity of the soul. Well, that's why I really like the translation that the title that the translator did for this. The initial translation was
step by step.
Conscious community. Conscious community.
It's so dangerous. This way of thinking. It's impressive. Like Kir's able to step out of it, be able to look at it from the outside. I think a lot of it has to do with us as well. It reminds me of when I was in my 20s, and I was starting out in the nursing home business. I remember, and there's certain moments of clarity we all have. You just know what your derech is. You know when you seize the moment.
Right.
And mine was going to an Ohio Healthcare Association nursing home convention in Columbus, Ohio, and there's thousands of people there, and there's the board of governors, they call them. I mean, the whole thing is Sheker I'm talking about is the board of governors, and there are these silly roses, fresh roses that they're wearing on their lapels, and they're sitting up on the dais, and the chairman, his name is Michael Scharfenberger, never forget it. He's not Jewish, and it was so clear to me sitting there. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be up on this table. If my life will be worth, I will get there. It was, and I'm telling you, I could speak to it. It was like a Navi came to me. It was absolutely a moment of clarity. A private party afterwards that only the people with the silly roses were able to go into, and it was just like this is what I was going to do, and it was totally a met for me. I mean, it was totally a met. It's delusional thinking. It's totally off and delusional. And like, let's say I would have made it up at the age of 40. Okay, I would have dedicated the last 20 years of my life to making it up to the Ohio Healthcare Association's Board of Governors and gotten the lapel and gotten access to a private party. Like, it's so silly. It's so outrageous. But I still get back to how clear I was and how dangerous my own, that's what it really is, my own absolute yashar thinking, which is what I thought, was going to happen. But I have something like this to be able to realize just how silly all that sounds, and to be able to step back and my life was saved. So
How was it saved?
My life was saved by being able to take a look and say, Scharfenberger is a fool, and a lot of these people are fools. And
but how? What brought you to that?
I mean,
that interests me so much more. These things, like what brought you to that place?
For me, it was Rav Nachman. For me, Rav Nachman. Until then, I had no clue. I was getting up to that dais, and then when he started to speak about these kind of things, that started to make cracks in my absolute, truth.
That's one reason I think you can't really be true to yourself. I don't think you can be true to yourself until you know yourself.
Right.
And I think that's what we're doing. I think that's what Lech Lecha is all about. He starts out as Avram, but he ends up as Abraham. And it wasn't a walk in the park. It was a long, difficult struggle to find out exactly who he was, to go to and find himself. And I think that's really what we're doing.
And it was generational,
You
too.
thought that's who you were at that moment in time. But that definitely is not who you were, or are, or will be.
Bezrat Hashem.
So, that's what we're doing here. We're trying to
know who we are.
Trying to find out exactly who we are.
In order to be true to that which we find out, which we discover.
Yeah. Also, so much of life is like the outside game. I want to do this, I want to be there, I want to make that, I want to do that. And all of this is saying the whole olam is an inside game. The whole thing is really just about how we're developing on the inside. And the outside, the outcome, the agenda, the goal at the end, that's like in Hashem's hands. But this is like the refocusing is like going lech lecha, like what you just is just like this whole game, the whole world, it's an inside game. And the outside, who's on the podium, or how much money you make, or how much things you do, or that whole thing, it's like a refocus.
Forget we're animals, though, right? Hashem put us here to survive. So we have this part of us that looks out in the world and says we have to survive. And in order to survive, we need to have, you need some money, you need to put food on the table, you need to put a shelter. What's that?
Animals don't have an inside game.
Animals just survive. Yeah. They just know. But that part of us says we have to survive. So when we look around the world and we engage, you go out into the world of business and you say, at the end of the day, I'm doing this because it's survival. Listen, a lot of us would make work anyway, but truthfully, a lot of us wouldn't put so much effort into our work if we didn't need to make a buck to put the thing. So now, how do you engage when, you're out there with the client and you look at them and you're saying, well, for my own survival, I better advise, whatever it is in order to create this outcome that's going to make me some cash to whatever, or am I going to take the tamim and have total emunah, have complete emunah that Hashem put me in this situation to do what I know is, if I look at my heart and I say, okay, this is the real thing to do, even though that real thing to do won't necessarily, in my own mind, advance the goal of, bringing some cash in.
No, but David, survival is one thing. The Board of Governors is not survival. I put it all on the line in an epic crash and burn and a run for the Knesset. That's where I need to be. That's where I'm going to go. Yeah. What does that have to do with me and my neshama at all? It was like a confusion of what I think success is, what I think avodat Hashem is, what I think blah, blah, blah is. And once it's on the outside, it's not necessarily about survival. It's just about the outcome, the outside.
But Tom's right. Once you got a little bit of a taste more of who you were.
I was Mr. Pirate. I walked the plank.
We all are, yeah.
I walked the plank.
And that's as far away from trying to get on that dais as you can get.
Yes, it is.
Pick up from that life and come here.
That's what I try to, what you're saying is what I always try to share with my chevra in different places in the world. Mamish good, we have so many good friends that learn with us, that are friends, all over the world, and I always try to go back to that nakudas, who I have personally to work with, the caliber, the type of person that I have to work with, is someone that he doesn't struggle with that anymore, with what you just described. The dais is, we all know we could be sitting with so much gelt not here. We know that, each and every one of us. There's another game, right? It's like, we're here, so no, there's a whole nother game of authenticity that it's just up a more intense level here, right? It doesn't stop, but that aspect, and that's a big masacha mavdil, a dividing veil, right? And that's a huge one. But like Reb Nachman says, like you go through that veil, and then there's just another one there. But that's a massive one, and to remove the peel off the next future veils alone is almost impossible.
I think one of the things I like about it's really a personal thing is about continuing to play music and make that a priority in my life is that it puts me in a place of shittit and tminut, or at least the current Tova, as opposed to other ones. But like keeping at it and trying to like constantly get to that place. And music is a good vehicle for me to get to a place of tminut and shittit.
But it's a good example, Yakir. You know why? And you've tasted both. Is because music is dafka, the one thing that could so easily become a delusion. Much easier than other things in life.
What does that mean?
Rabbeinu Tam, what did I just say? As if I'm talking like I'm a real musician.
Yeah, that's a fine line. I mean, is it the pure aspect of music?
Never. Almost never.
Or is it...
Who's going to see me?
There's a point about piracy. There was two kinds of piracy. There was piracy and there was privateers. Then the only difference between the two was pirates just went out and did it. They were pillage, whatever. I take what I want.
Right.
And I faced the hangman. Okay, I get caught, I get home. Fine. Privateers did the exact same thing, except they had a letter from the king. They had a letter from the king that says, I can do this as long as he gets his cut. And that's that fine line.
Like, you ever play music for no other reason? Lo shum pniyat.
That's the deal. That's what ruined me in the music world. Was the fact that when we first started playing as teenagers, it was fun. We had a great time. The minute I went into the business of music, that was the end of it for me. That was the end of it for me. I still have barely even recovered from it. When the whole thing comes up about business, I call Dove. Talk to Dove. Don't talk to me. Don't talk to me.
All right. Let's keep the ball rolling, brothers. Let's keep it going. Yeshar koach.